Welcome back, True Seeker. It is Monday, May 6th, 2024. One of the big headlines this morning: Columbia University today announces they're canceling their commencement ceremony. And of course, it's obvious why this announcement comes May 6th. If you've been following what we've been talking about with these protests and the number 56. Of course, last week on April 30th, you got the headline about Hamilton Hall, rated 56 years to the day of the raid by police in 1968 on Hamilton Hall. Back then, they were protesting Vietnam. Now it's the war in Gaza. And something tells me that in the not too distant future, they'll be looking back at what's going on in Gaza and they'll be saying that's as awful as what happened in Vietnam. But again, 56. If you're new here, I've written a book. Well, I've written two books talking about this number, but especially the last one, Number Games. If you've not read my book, Number Games, it explains why pretty much every politician came out and gave you their COVID stat and put a big 56 in it, and what that number has to do with a lot of things throughout history going back to 9/11. 56 is a high ritual number that is special to the orders that run Washington, D.C., and that's the Jesuits and the Freemasons. And again, the Masons etch on their temple all is number. When you start to pay attention, you start to see how repetitive the number patterns are. Had a lot to do with why the Key Bridge came down on Nancy Pelosi's birthday. That 56-meter tall clearance bridge. But anyway, let's just focus on Columbia right now. It's 5-6, and let's just recap everything we went over in recent days. So again, Hamilton Hall rated 56 years to the day. And this was the big headline on the Illuminati's 248th birthday. Of course, the Illuminati was founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. But if you're new here, Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. Phrases like all seeing eye equal 56. So the Society of Jesus, that's the Jesuits. Black Lives Matter equates to 56. That's a Jesuit psychological operation to divide the nation, just like the Black Panthers were. That's why all the original Black Panther meetings were in Catholic churches in the Bay Area. Remember, they painted Black Lives Matter on the streets of D.C. on Church Street on the 5th day of the 6th month. Ides of March. We'll get to why that's up there. Again, they put out the Shirley Chisholm film on Netflix on the Ides of March. 56 years ago, she became the first Black woman in Congress. She went to Columbia. She left Congress in 83, the year Obama left. She left Congress the year Obama left Columbia in 83. And of course, Obama won the 56th U.S. presidential election. And we'll come back to how tied this election was to Obama through the number 56. But yeah, the other thing about the raid on April 30th at Hamilton Hall, 56 years to the day, that was also the birthday of the Church of Satan. And again, if you're new here, you got to follow the work that we've been putting out for years. It's very obvious that the Church of Satan was set up in a Jesuit ritual. So the point is, it's easy to see how all of these things come back to the Jesuits. And it starts to make a lot of sense when you know history, because if you know history, you know that the calendar we're on that says today's May 6th, well, this calendar came from the Jesuit order, credited to Jesuit priest Christopher Clavius. And you also know that English was standardized with the 26-letter alphabet at that same moment in history. Plus, you know that the English language goes back to the Catholic Church. So anyway, just to make sure we got all these, Ilhan Omar, she's one of these divisive people in politics, largely because of religion, because they have this nation all divided over all the things that we can be divided over, and religion is at the top of that chart. But again, Ilhan Omar, her daughter supposedly just got arrested at Columbia, and as we talked about, her daughter, born February 22nd, was arrested April 18th, 56 days after her birthday, and her name in Gematria, Isra Hersey, equals 56. And remember, this nation goes all the way back to the beginning of this country. 56 signers on the Declaration of Independence. Of course, Washington, D.C., the Jesuit stronghold that eventually became the capital, has the 56 connection. They did this while her daughter's 21 in the 21st century that began with a big bang and a huge division between the Abrahamic religions, which there's 3 of. And by the way, with regards to the whole 56 thing, Abrahamic equates to 56. And really, that's what's fighting right now. These beliefs over religion, people divided amongst religion. Again, the Abrahamic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Abrahamic equals 56. The word 3 written out equals 56. 3 Abrahamic religions. You run the alphabetic order in reverse, Abrahamic equals 187. Like there's 187 chapters in the Torah. Okay, and then the Obama connection. Again, the winner of the 56th U.S. presidential election. Let's not forget the protest at Columbia University began on the 113th day of the year, 113 days from the leader of the school's birthday, who I believe is also a Muslim woman. I might be mistaken about that. Her name, though, would suggest that perhaps she is. And again, I'm not taking any shots at Islam. I'm just saying that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just use different people of different skin colors and names and religious backgrounds and just point fingers and just add to their division chaos that they're always creating with the same code. But anyway, here's the point about yeah, by the way, we were talking about how this was leading up to the Illuminati's 248th birthday. And then sure enough, on the birthday, the big climax was the raid 56 years to the day, the evening prior. But yeah, here it is with Obama. From Obama's August 4th birthday to the day the protest took off and became the focus of the nation's attention, that was 263 days after Obama's birthday, which is the 56th prime number. Just like how the 56-meter clearance bridge came down on 26/3, Nancy Pelosi's birthday, when she's from Baltimore. Part of this Catholic Jesuit alliance. Plus her name, Nancy Pelosi, equates to 56. Again, Obama won the 56th quadrennial presidential election. Quadrennial, every 4 years. But yeah, none of these things are an accident. It's because it's all planned. It's all being executed. And again, it's high ritual. They market the protest. They bring in the paid-for protesters to start the first crowd so that other people will come in and become a part of it. Then when the time comes, they have the paid-for instigators create a reason so that the authorities can have an excuse to come in with the violence as they do with the police to shut it all down, like we've seen the last handful of days across the nation, pretty much since April 30th. But this is what people need to wake up to so they stop becoming part of these psychological operations and agendas. Had you known this knowledge in 2020, you wouldn't have fallen for the pandemic, because every stat they were putting up on the screen was 56% this, 56 this, 56 that. Gavin Newsom, another Jesuit whose name equals 56, said he's locking down California because 56% of the states getting the virus in 8 weeks, which is 56 days. You got Donald Trump in 2020, 56 years after his Jesuit education began. So proud of being the father of the jab. Again, Trump went to Fordham, the Jesuit school in New York. So did Cuomo, who was the 56th governor, and on and on and on. But this 56 number, all over the place in high ritual. Go back to 9/11, the 3 planes that hit targets. Flights 11 and 175 in New York. Flight 77 at the 77-foot tall Pentagon on the 77th meridian. But anyway, you add those 3 flights together, 11 plus 175 plus 77, it's 263, which is the 56 prime. And here's how you can know that's not a coincidence. You can know from what happened to yours truly. Again, in 2022, we went from Seattle to New York and hit every big city along the way. And we're in New York for the anniversary of 9/11, talking about this exact code, teaching about these high rituals and numbers. When they locked down Seattle, the first case with COVID, it was in the time of the 56th mayor, Jenny Durkin, who's also Jesuit educated. Then Chicago had the next one. Lori Lightfoot was the 56th mayor of Chicago with the same birthday as Obama, who won the 56th election. Tom Hanks from Sleepless in Seattle, where his wife dies in Chicago from illness and moves out to Seattle. He's the first celeb with the virus, born in 56. Gets the virus while he's doing the movie on Elvis, who got the polio vaccine on live TV in 56. If you don't know about the polio vaccine and what they did in 2020 at the pandemic, again, read my book. Go back and check out my older posts, older work. But this 56 thing is a high ritual number. And when you recognize it, you can see who's pulling the strings. Then you know not to show up at the protest that's set up for destruction. Because this is what they do over and over. Like, I'm not saying people who showed up at the protest were wrong to stand for the people of Gaza who are getting murdered. By the way, in a complete lie. We called it from day one when Netanyahu came back on Albert Pike's birthday what was coming. Albert Pike wrote the letter about 3 world wars that was published on August 15th, the Jesuit order's birthday, where the third and final world war that brings about the one world order is centered on political Zionism. But yeah, Netanyahu came back on 12/29, Albert Pike's birthday, who wrote those letters. And we had it pretty much nailed down from the day he came back when to expect the major war to start in Israel in 2023. We knew why it was going to happen. We said it would happen around the time Yale turned 322 years old. Lo and behold, the war started 2 days before Yale turned 322 on October 7th, the anniversary of us invading Afghanistan. And if you go back and watch our TFR episode from October 4th, we were really zeroed in on why October 7th looked prime for exactly what happened. Again, all of this stuff is high ritual. And again, it is the Catholic Church and the Jesuits behind all of it. Again, the calendar is named after the Pope. You run the alphabetic order forwards, the word Pope equals 52 to go with the 52-week calendar. You run the alphabetic order in reverse, the word Pope equals 56, where that special number leads to. All rituals synced with the Pope, just like how when Ukraine and Russia broke out in the huge Jesuit ritual that was, you had the Pope there on the 56th day of the year talking to Putin. Go back and look. February 25th, 56th day of the year. Putin meets with the Pope. Putin, when he met with Tucker Carlson, it was a big Jesuit ritual, as we covered, paying tribute to the Kremlin. But how did Putin begin the discussion? He said, I want to tell you history. And then he goes back to the history of the Catholic Church in the region. Go back to, in our history, U.S. history, what were certain founders warning about? They were warning about what could happen if the Jesuits came out of suppression. Again, they were in suppression when this country was being formed. And we've always talked about the ritual of why they came out during the time of James Madison and how it's obvious it was a ritual when they came out of suppression, paying tribute to the newly formed United States of America back in the time of the 56 signers. But yeah, people need to get the knowledge so they can stop getting played by the same cabal that's been playing us like a fiddle for centuries. And it's not just in the U.S. It's a worldwide order. The Jesuits have been all over the world for longer than the U.S. has existed. Been doing this 56 thing for a long time. And again, I mean, who paid for Christopher Columbus, which Columbia is named after? The Catholic Church. Columbia, so central, older than the nation. And if you guys missed all the other work we've done on Columbia, we've been keeping up with a lot. This whole thing's synced with Christopher Columbus, just all of it. So yeah, I didn't want to go too long, but just wanted to hit the latest. Why on 5/6 they're saying, sorry, no commencement for you. And I don't even want to get into the Gematria commencement, which is 201. Again, there's a reason event 201 was the pandemic simulation, and the first Jesuit Pope lives in suite 201, and the first COVID case was 56 days from event 201. But we're going to leave that part out for now. Just try to really hammer it home with the 56. So thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. And shout out to Daria up early with the generosity. She said, did anyone catch the 9/11 joke on Tom Brady's roast about how he remembers that fateful September day when Drew Bledsoe got hit by 2 New York Jets? Yeah, I did catch that. Kayla sent the clip to me. Shout out to Kayla. And again, haven't we been explaining that joke for a long time? Why Drew Bledsoe, the Washington State product, got taken out by New York Jets to give rise to Tom Brady and the Patriots in the time of 9/11 and the Patriot Act. I mean, we've been explaining that joke for years. Tom Brady stole our material last night. And again, you guys, if you don't know, like Drew Bledsoe going to Washington State, it matters because Magnuson Klemenkic Associates, one of the main engineers on the World Trade Center, is from Seattle, Washington. Boeing, of course, is from Seattle, Washington. The man who designed the World Trade Centers, Japanese-American, is from Washington, from Seattle. Again, World War Japanese kamikaze pilots. Think about how that factors in with 9/11. Nothing but jokes, you guys. Pearl Harbor was a big Jesuit ritual. 9/11 was a big Jesuit ritual. What's going on at Columbia is a big Jesuit ritual. The pandemic was a big Jesuit ritual. And for all you guys who don't get it, hold on. I think I forgot to mention my point about what just happened. When we went from Seattle to New York for 9/11, I had that YouTube channel just dedicated to that, traveling across the nation. Do you know what Google did? Google just deleted the whole channel exactly 263 days after that 9/11 that we were there. 263 days after 9/11 2022 when we were there, they just delete the whole channel. Just got rid of everything. How we went from city to city all the way across, gathered a lot of people in a lot of cities, made a big impact in New York. If you ever go to New York and speak, go out in front of their bookstore there. I forget the name of that bookstore, but popular bookstore. There's a nice park just down the block. When we spoke at the World Trade Centers, we spoke in Times Square, we spoke all over the place, but the best place and all of the time that we were speaking was in front of the bookstore. It was just perfect, man. We had people stop for blocks all over listening to what we were saying. Yeah, and Google had to tear down that video in high ritual, or not that video, but all those videos. But they had to do it 263 days later. And you could have watched us before they took it down talking about why the planes added up to 263, which comes back to 56, this number that they do these rituals with over and over and over. And by the way, I'll just say this too, for all you guys who think RFK Jr., Jesuit educated, is the great hope, pull your head out of your ass. Every ritual he does is completely Jesuit, and even his VP nominee that he just picked is a sick joke. He picked her the day that the bridge collapsed on Nancy Pelosi's birthday. And her birthday, his VP nominee, well, here, first of all, she's from the Tacoma Narrows area where the worst bridge collapse happened in U.S. history. So he picks his VP candidate from the Tacoma Narrows area when on the day of the bridge collapse. Remember that bridge came down on 26/3, like 263, the 56 prime, when Nancy Pelosi's 56, and it was her birthday. But go back and look at the headline last year, September 16th. The New York Times let us know about I remember the two big stories from the New York Times on September 16th last year. One was that a Jesuit priest had been warning the Pope all along about Hitler, and the Pope had just ignored this Jesuit priest. Remember, the Nazis are modeled after the Jesuit order. Adolf Hitler equals 56, supposedly committed suicide at age 56. But anyway, that was one of the stories, September 16th. The other one was that RFK Jr. had that assassination scare in Los Angeles where his father was killed. And as we pointed out, that story came exactly 263 days before the 5th of June this year, the 56th prime, which goes with the 5/6 shooting date, and this year being the 56th anniversary of his assassination. Anyway, the VP nominee he picked the day of the bridge collapse has that same birthday, the same day that he had the assassination scare, which means his VP's birthday is 56 or 263 days before the 56th anniversary of the father's assassination. These things are not an accident. These things are not an accident. And don't forget, the upcoming election this year is on Remember the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Day. The day the Jesuits tried to blow up British Parliament, that's the day leaving 56 days left in the year. And don't forget the first rigged caucus, the Iowa caucus, which fell on 1/15, kind of like November 5th, another 1/15 sequence. Supposedly Trump, the Jesuit, got 56% of the vote. Again, you guys, this nation is one big Jesuit joke. And that is the perfect way to express what it is, because it's a sick joke every day, and most people just aren't getting the joke because they don't have enough knowledge to understand it. Just like you take a little infant to a comedian and he's telling sex jokes, the little kid's like, what? What? I don't get any of this. But an adult gets it. The thing is, America really is like a nation of infants in terms of the knowledge they should have. It's like a bunch of 40-year-olds that don't even know that our genitals are first sex. It's kind of like that's the way we've been brought up. Like, we're just so ignorant about ourselves and everything that just everything goes right over our heads, not catching any of it. Shame on Tom Brady for using my joke last night. I'm not going to watch that roast, though. But the other headline I saw was Jeff Ross, I guess, was making fun of the Jewish guy from Colombia. What's his name? Kraft Macaroni, this rigged football team. But I guess anyway, Jeff Ross, I guess I just saw the headline that Jeff Ross was making fun of him, and Tom Brady got up and told him to stop making fun of Robert Kraft. Like, oh, God. What do we know? The Jews. I mean, like, right, they make all these jokes. Like, here, to make a point about just Jew. Understand, I'm not mad at Jews, but just it is true that, like, Jews are really good at giving it out, but really can't take anything back. You know, you like watch Jewish sitcoms on TV all day written by all these Jews, making fun of all these racial groups, all these stereotypes. I remember years ago, it was like at the same time, Sasha Baron Cohen, Sasha, of all the Jews to get to ask for the internet to be censored, they had to get like but it was at the same time that he was calling for censorship of people online. They kept like advertising some new sitcom that was coming out on one of the major networks, and it was like different races in an apartment all making fun. The preview for it was like a Mexican guy making fun of a black guy who was making fun of a white guy. And it's just like, okay, like how come this can be on TV making fun of people over race, but we can't have jokes about Jews? I mean, like, where's the fairness here? And again, this goes back to that thing about how you have to love Jews and Israel more than any other group, which isn't right. I mean, everybody should get along and everybody should be able to have a joke. But yeah, something that Jews can be teased about is just like how sensitive they are and just how they always just have a hissy fit if anybody says anything about them. How about just defend yourself? How about debunk those things if they're not true through a million different ways to do it, humor or otherwise? But yeah, I just get sick of just watching all the stereotypes. I mean, everybody does. That's why people are out protesting, because a lot of people do see what it is, and they're not going to let the TV do their thinking for them. But yeah, at the same time, for all the people who see what's wrong, still don't get pulled into these mainstream psychological operations, the protests that they want you at, so then they can film you getting arrested and sprayed by the cops with mace and the batons coming in and the big shields. That's really why they set up these things, just so they can reinforce the same message over and over. You won't dare go against the Israel agenda. You won't dare. But understand also, it's not Jews that are orchestrating this. It is the Jesuits, which is a Catholic Jewish alliance, but you can't blame Jews for that. So that's just some people in the group. Can never blame the whole group. So yeah, anyway, we'll leave it there before I go too far and get the video taken down, because again, there are really sensitive people out there and they just want to call everything hate speech, even though all we do over on this channel is fact speech all day. Endless facts, endless proof, same stuff day after day. So anyway, we'll leave it there for now. And until next time, True Sticker.